Hi, everyone. Welcome to season 11 of Drink It In the podcast. This is so exciting. I can't believe season 11. Like, where does that come from? It's like, it comes from consistency and hard work. That's where it comes from. Okay. But I wanted to introduce this season is called the Rabbi season, right? At first, you might think that's a little scary, but I got some good rabbis here. And I wanted to introduce you to one that I've not met personally, but I have definitely engaged with via social media and definitely love his energy, love his vibes. And I said, okay, if I'm doing this season 11 about rabbis, I must have Rabbi Raps. So, Rabbi Raps, I want you, if you kindly could introduce yourself, tell everybody maybe where you're from originally, where you're located now. That would be great.
Sure. What an honor to be on your podcast. Thank you very much. 11 seasons. That's remarkable. I don't even have one season of a podcast. So I'm blown away.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. My name is Avrohom Rapoport. I live in the Atlantic City, New Jersey area. I grew up here because my parents are Chabad Rabbi and Rebbitzin in the area. And I went into the family business. So I'm also a Chabad Rabbi in the city called Ventnor. It's a little beach town. It's a terrible business, by the way. If you're looking for a business, Jordana, don't go into the rabbinate.
Okay.
But it's very, it's very meaningful.
That's now. That's interesting. You said you grew up Chabad. Was that like you? Oh, you grew up in this area where you are right now.
Yes, I grew up. My parents were sent by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in the early '80s to open up the third Chabad house in New Jersey. It was in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I grew up here. I joke around with people that I'm the original Hasidic beach bum with sand between my toes and a siddur in my hand, a chumash in my hand. It's really to create an image because as a kid, I probably wasn't holding a chumash or a siddur, but it's
So let's talk about that Rabbi Raps as a kid. Let's go there. You mentioned that. Let's go there. Because when I think Chabad, I know I'm sorry to be so stereotypical. I think about Crown Heights, and then from there people branch out. So you're not Crown Heights. You're from this area, and you stayed in this area. So what were you like as a kid?
I don't know if you want to hear about that, but no, I grew up here in Atlantic City. The children of Shluchim have very interesting lives. It's not easy to grow up in a community with absolutely almost no frum people. All my friends are secular. Every birthday party I went to, my mother packed my own little cupcake because I couldn't eat the food there. But what it does is obviously creates a very strong identity and a sense of mission where we are. My parents came to this area and really brought a tremendous amount of Yiddishkeit for more than 35 years in the Atlantic City area. I grew up here. I went to Lakewood Cheder. So I'm a Lakewood Cheder success story.
Wow. Okay, so how far was the drive that you had to go to school every day?
It was like about an hour and 15 minutes.
Oh
Now,
God.
I moved out. I moved away. I wasn't going to be a rabbi. If you want, we could talk about that. I
Yeah,
ended up
we're gonna
moving
get
back
there.
to this area, and now I live here with my wife, Masha. We run a large community here, a lot of programming for teens, adults, seniors, everything. And my kids go to school in Lakewood as well.
Oh,
And yeah, and it's a very difficult thing there's no kosher food here. We're the source of kosher food if people need it. As a kid, there was no kosher food. My kids have a lot of friends. They're not religious. They're not they're secular, but they feel like they're not only friends, but they're there to be an example and to share about Yiddishkeit. And that's what we do.
wow. Wow. So then if they ever complain, they're like, I don't know if they call you Tati, Daddy. It's a long schlep to school. You're like, well, I did it.
So recently we got ourselves a little crash pad and we started staying there three nights a week in Lakewood. I was just
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
this is a new thing. This is
a
new.
new thing.
Yeah, very.
Okay. But that's nice
We'll
because
see
you
how
know
it
what
goes.
I feel like, you know what I'm saying? So it's really nice. Very good. Good for you. Good
Oh,
for you.
it's actually for religious people, from people, they don't even realize the luxury of having a choice of pizza shops and restaurants
Right.
minutes away. And
Right.
I opened the door where we stay. We stay in this very yeshivish block in Lakewood. wonderful people. And I opened the door and my kids run it. It's a bungalow colony and they could just eat in anyone's house. Kids just walk into our house. They don't know us. They open the fridge and take food. It's I mean, we're not used to this. To live in a frum community is a luxury. It's beautiful, and we appreciate it now. Like temporarily, we're doing it a little bit now, and it's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Wow, wow. Okay, so now you touched on it. What did you want to be when you were younger? Not a rabbi, you said.
um, so, well, that's. By the way, can I just take a step back? You know,
Yeah, sure.
you're doing a podcast about rabbis. Like, honestly, rabbis are like the most boring people in the world.
Not you.
You sure you want to reconsider? Like,
I'm picking the good ones. Rabbi,
okay.
I'm picking the good ones. That's why I picked you. You are definitely not boring.
You know, rabbis are wrapped up in a tallis and they're praying all day. You know, that's, I mean, okay, whatever. But since you asked, I always wanted to be, from a young age, I wanted to be a filmmaker.
Okay.
My bar mitzvah money went to buying a camcorder, and I actually ended up opening a film company. And it wasn't my intention to be a rabbi.
Okay.
And it sort of happened by accident. In my family, and in Chabad in general, everyone gets smicha. It's sort of like a rite of passage. And my brothers are in business, some of them are rabbis, but they all have smicha. They all got rabbinical ordination. I was not going to be a rabbi in practice. I always loved telling stories in creative ways. I opened a film company the day I graduated rabbinical school. I got my smicha the next day. I was already dabbling in it as a hobby for years. I had a company that made promotional films for nonprofits. That was my niche. I did a lot of Chabad work around the world, and that's what I thought I was going to do.
Mm-hmm. And then?
And then my parents asked me to, you know, I needed a place to live, and I was going to live here and help out on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm traveling the world during the week, all over the United States, interviewing the most amazing Jewish leaders, people who are
But not rabbis because they're boring.
well, rabbis and rabbitzins
Okay.
together. And yes, and I'm telling their story, and it's my job to tell their story well. And I'm telling their story, and I'm inspiring myself by my own work because they're amazing. I'm talking about, you know, Chabad and not Chabad, like people who live all over, building communities, inspiring people, running nonprofits, dedicating their lives to others. And I'm loving to tell these stories. At the same time, I'm sort of helping on the side in my local community here with my parents. And intention was to work on the side as a, you know, as community organizer, as a rabbi, as a shliach. And somehow, I don't know when it happened, but eventually I was doing more and more of it. I wanted to do the things that I saw people doing, and it was so inspiring to me. And somehow, at some point, I don't have time to make films anymore.
You know what?
Until recently, yeah.
Right, I was going to say, but now with the social media, it's like it came full circle for you a little bit.
Yes, true. And I think it's a blessing. Only about 2 years ago, I discovered this thing called Instagram, and I've been having a lot of fun ever since.
And you're doing it so well, and you've been so successful with it, giving off the message and just, you know, your positive vibes and your positive energy. And it's just, there's a way about you. And I think that
Oh,
people find it very endearing. And that's probably why so many people are attracted to your page, to your platform. And thank God you do it with such a Kiddush Hashem, I find, really sanctifying God's name in a really special way. And that's really why I feel special to have you here. But it's
well, that's a real compliment coming from you because you're doing a great job on social media yourself. All those videos about Torah and Judaism.
yeah,
By the way, what am I supposed to be drinking? Because it's called Drink In.
right, drink it in.
I got the right stuff.
You got the right stuff. Thank God you said drink it in, not drink it up. Okay, so
Okay.
I get people say that all the time, but you know, it's funny you said. I wanted to go back to how you were saying how it, you know, you were doing this and it came to be. Like I know when I was starting out in my profession of teaching, it wasn't something I didn't want to be a teacher when I was younger. I wanted to go into banking. And I, I remember that's a different thing why. It was like really selfish for me.
Probably would have done pretty well as a banker too. But anyway,
Thank you, thank you. But then, like, one of my teachers had said to me, Jordana, you're such a people's person. You need to do like things with people. And I'm like, no, 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 no. And I don't want to do that. And ended up that I just like to do what I'm good at. And I was pretty good at it. So I said, okay, I'll go and do this. But it's interesting when you said that you got inspired by people. For me, when I became a teacher, the first thing I wanted to do, sorry, any teachers that I was their student. I said I wanted to be the teacher I never had. I'm so sorry if you're listening to this. I'm sorry. I just, not that you guys were bad. It just, I needed more. And so that was my goal for 28 years, was to be the teacher that I never had. And it's so funny, I want, you've had that, you find that there are people that are raised a certain way and they want to continue that path of how they were raised. And then there are people that dafka, I'm going to do the opposite of whatever I was raised in. And right, you have it, you can have it both ways. And so I wanted to be the teacher I never had. And I wanted to give that gift over to my students. So I think I was successful in that realm. Thank God.
yeah, and back to storytelling. A teacher is a storyteller. A
Yeah.
podcaster, a influencer. We're telling stories.
Yeah.
And
Okay, so now where did your wife come into this picture? But first of all, I want to tell you about your wife. You said Masha's her name. So
yes,
cool, because I'll tell you why that is so cool.
why is that cool?
Because
I mean, I agree. But why?
my grandmother my grandmother's name was Masha. Okay, so and for a while, well, no, she passed away. No one has actually named after her because they're like, it's really Moshe, Ima. It's Moshe just in like a girl version. Like, what is that? And I'm like, well, I don't know. It's Masha. Like, it's Masha. Just like her English name was Martha. So, but no one has really named after her yet. I'm still waiting. Maybe somebody will do it. So that's why it's so cool. I'm like, oh my gosh, someone named Masha. They're like, I've heard Mashi, but you refer to her as
Well,
Masha. Is that a
right.
common Chabad
No,
name?
no. Mashi is short for Masha, actually, I
Okay.
believe. Yeah, and it's Russian roots, it's Yiddish roots, it's connected to Moshe, you're right. And
Right.
from the idea to draw, there's a lot of meanings. I'm not a name expert, I can't tell you exactly. Yeah.
But no, is it like is it a popular? I assume she was also Chabad and still Chabad. Is that a
Yeah,
popular Chabad name, like Mendy? Like I made a
I don't
joke
think
on,
it's
like you say
particularly
Mendy.
Chabad. No, I don't
No,
think
it's
so.
not particular. Oh,
But
okay,
there's a lot of Russian people with Masha. I've heard that.
okay. So where
Yeah.
did your wife come into the picture? So here you
So
are back at home, and then
yeah, she grew up Miami Beach, Florida. Her father was a Chabad rabbi, ran a Judaica store, is a Chabad rabbi today. Anyway, she did not also intend to be running a community, but we both fell into this together, and today we find it very meaningful. Talking about rabbis, like what is a rabbi? To different people, rabbis are different things. And
yes.
in a frum community, a rabbi is someone you go ask a shaila to. You have a question, right? You just shechted a chicken, and you're like, Rabbi, okay, maybe not that, but you have a question about your mezuzah or whatever it is. So the rabbi is your rav, and that's a rabbi. In some communities, the rabbi, wears a talis and looks holy in front of the shul, and don't bother me, I won't bother you. For me, in my community, most of the people are secular, very secular Jews. So it's like it might be a different connotation than in other communities. For me, they'll come Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, they'll come once in a while on Shabbos. God forbid someone passes away, I'm very involved. Someone's sick, they'll come and ask me to say a Mishaberach. A rabbi is someone they'll ask to do a wedding. It's completely different than I think a regular frum community. Much of what I do is community building. We run a school for children. We run teen programs. We run programs for seniors, meals. It's really about building Jewish life and Jewish community. Yes, I give shiurim. I give classes as well. And there's social programs, but it's really about creating a space for many different kinds of Jews, many different backgrounds to come together and celebrate Jewish life.
So if I could coin this a little bit, like as it says in Ethics of Our Fathers in Pirkei Avot, right?
Yeah.
What's if you get yourself a rav, it's really like a friend, right?
Yes.
So you're
I,
a friend.
I would like, that's a beautiful explanation. Yeah, I would love to say I'm the friend. If I try to be a friend to many.
Right, exactly. So that's where your role comes in. I think you basically live the life of Pirkei Avot more than what we see sometimes. That, like you said, in an observant community, the rabbi's life is not much of a life, really. You can't, you're probably those types of rabbis are a little stifled every 2 seconds. Like you said, there are questions. You might facilitate and help in a wedding, but in more of a predominant Orthodox community, you could be having a wedding every night, a bar mitzvah, a funeral, God forbid, a bris. It could be like constant, and maybe that doesn't afford the rabbi time to breathe.
That's true.
So you have a little bit more breathing space, would you say, or
Oh,
not?
no,
Because
I'm saying I don't have time to breathe. I'm sorry.
you don't have time to breathe.
What are they doing? They're studying Torah all day. What are you? I'm the one that can't breathe. But anyway,
Well, take us through a typical schedule for you, like on a daily basis. What's a typical schedule for you, or it's
there's
varied so much?
there's like I have no idea what's going to be. I might be koshering someone's kitchen, checking a bakery to make sure it's kosher. I might be installing a mezuzah. I might be doing a funeral. I deal with fundraising, so I'm working on events. Um, Atlantic City, there's not many options for kosher food,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not why I'm here, but we get calls every single night for kosher food for Jewish travelers. So now I have someone that's here every night. I have out of the shul, sort of like a restaurant. People come, they give a donation, they get a meal. But that's always someone's got to oversee that and run that. We run a day camp. We run programs for children, for teens, seniors, Shabbos dinners. Groups come for Shabbos. Someone's got to feed them. Uh, and then, like, 10 minutes before the sermon, I have to come up with a sermon too. So yeah, so I mean, don't tell anyone I said that, but yeah.
But now, so if you come across so many different people for the past so many years, curious, do you have like the funniest thing that ever happened to you in this position? Like what, like looking back, like, oh my gosh, this was like the crazy funniest story.
That's too much pressure. I can't remember like the funniest story, but we had a lot of crazy stories that happen every day. Atlantic City is an interesting place. It's a place of gambling, a place of this unholy activity, and I'm like just in the shadow. We're in the next town over. It's Ventnor. It's actually more of a vacation beach town, but like Atlantic City is our jurisdiction. My parents are there, and I'm working with it. So there's always interesting things that are happening. Some things that are good and beautiful, like a family retreat, and sometimes like someone ends up in prison for some reason or gets into trouble, and the first person they call is always us. They lose their money, whatever. There's always stories like that, and I could probably write a book. I was actually thinking about a great title, The Rabbi of Boardwalk Empire. Anyway, it's a work in progress. But I mean, I've had a woman once call like Erev Shabbos, and she's like, I haven't seen my husband all week. None of the credit cards work. He had a gambling addiction. And, to go and, Erev Shabbos, try to find someone in a very unholy place. Probably people are looking like, what's he doing here, right? And put my hand on the guy's shoulder and say, okay, you're coming with me. And boy, he looked up like he needed someone to do that. He couldn't pull himself away from that table. And we got him away. We got him home. When I was a kid, people would come and lose all their money. And a normal sight I would see is like, and this happened all the time. Someone used to come to my parents and be like, I lost all my money. So in the early years, my father used to give, here's $20, go get a bus home. All right. You know the joke. I went to Atlantic City with a $50,000 car, and I went home with $1 million bus.
Oh gosh.
Right. So you got a ticket. So, I mean, this is the kind of stuff we saw. And then the person would come back 2 hours later. I took the money and I gambled it. Right. So you have to learn to take someone and put them on, drive them. And how many people did we drive back to New York and drive back to different places they came from? So there's always interesting things happening. And also, Atlantic City is like an interesting town. You know, on one hand, you have people in my community that don't know much about Judaism, and they're excited. They want to learn. They hear a story. They learn about a new mitzvah. They're thirsty for more. Teach me something new, Rabbi. So I have like that. And then like sometimes you bump into people that might be running away from their communities. And where do you run to? Where's the easiest place to run to? From Philadelphia, from Muncie, from New York? Where could you get lost? You come here. So I might be sitting around the Shabbos table, and like one person is like leaning forward, I want to know more, and one person is like, I'm trying to actually get away right now, and just to see these worlds collide, the worlds of people just moving in different directions. And I mean, my hope is someone that comes here, regardless of where they're holding in life, they have a encounter, hopefully a positive encounter. And they're uplifted, and they would want more Yiddishkeit, and that's my goal.
So like just taking back on what you were saying, I guess you see a lot of addictions. That would be like the downside. But the upside is, I guess, the helping that you could give to those people. Do you ever find it draining or disheartening that you see so much?
It's a good question. Sometimes it's very disappointing when you're trying to help people and they need real help. When I say real help, they need professionals, and there's only so much you can do. And that can be very, that is draining. That is, you put a lot of effort. It's not what we do every day. I have morning to night. We're very busy in our community, what we're doing. And then when a problem comes up, you have to stop everything and do it. And it's the greatest mitzvah. It's the greatest honor to be able to do that. But then sometimes you realize that this person is going to need some real help, and it's not up to me.
Right. It's out of your hands. So what would you say has been the most rewarding part of your job so far? Like, oh my gosh, like Jordana, this, you won't ever believe this.
These are, you're good at questions. You make me think. I have to give you a good answer now. This is wonderful. Most rewarding. One of the beautiful things about what I do, and I think many shluchim or rabbis involved with people in community, life becomes so magnified. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, when it comes to sad things, like you're at a lot of funerals, you're a lot of shivas, and it becomes mad. You're experiencing people's loss, and it makes you appreciate life. And so much, just like anyone, God forbid, goes to a funeral, no one walks away from a funeral and they're the same as they were before. People are changed in the process. They're just like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, you rethink everything. So life is very magnified. I do many bar mitzvahs and many weddings and many funerals, unfortunately. And what happens is it's just a constant reminder how every day and every moment and every gift is literally a bracha, as a blessing, and how lucky we are with what we have, and how grateful we need to be.
So the present is a present.
The present, wow, yes, the present is a present.
Yeah, but come on, you must have something like from all your travels, something that you could give us that you like. This really inspired me the most, or one of the most. I mean,
I don't know what's the most. I could just think of things that pop into my head randomly.
Okay, so let's hear. I mean, I don't know how. Yeah. I'm nervous when it pops into your head, so that I'm just like.
We had a situation a couple of years ago that unfortunately there was a girl from religious community got involved with some bad people and drugs, and she was actually in a situation that she was kidnapped against her will in a casino for more than a week.
Wow.
She could leave, but she was afraid for her life, and she was dealing with some really bad. She got involved in some really bad people and situations, and how a person gets there, I wasn't part of their story. I don't know, but obviously there was a lot of struggles in life that puts a person into that kind of circumstance, and it was a long ordeal. The girl's friend sent me a message late Matzah Shabbos at like 12 o'clock at night through Facebook randomly. You don't know me. I don't know you, but you're there. You got to help my friend. And said she can't leave. She's afraid for her life. She has nowhere to go. And so we arranged actually to take her away from the casino. She snuck out. I didn't know who she was. It was very strange because I'm not going to just bring someone to my house. We have to find a place for her to stay. And we were involved with her and her family getting her to a safe place where she went for help. And I just got a call literally a couple months ago from the mother because I lost, it's like 8 years ago. I just want to let you know this girl has gone through therapy and to a program, and now she's fine. She has a job for a couple of years. I just want to let you know she's getting married at the end of the week. I thought you should know the end of the story. She's doing great. She met a wonderful frum guy, and she has a completely different life. And the family attributes really the turning point in her life that we were able to help her. It's very humbling to do that. But when you hear us, like, I don't know everything that happens with all the people I meet. You never know. You don't know where people go or what becomes of people, and you hope for the best. And sometimes we don't want to look too much on them because, now it's someone else's job. But when you hear a nice story like that
Yes.
makes you look back and say, wow,
I did good.
yeah, it's not about me. It's about the person, about the
Right.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear that. It's
Correct.
it's interesting you say that. First of all, that was very nice of that mother.
I thought so too. I didn't get an invitation. They forgot about it. She's like a few days before the wedding, and like her mind's probably racing. She's like, I should probably read. And I told her, I'm so happy you share that with me because I
Right.
always wondered what happened, but I
Right.
don't. I'm not always going to go and snoop and find out. I'm hoping that I don't want to know sometimes. But
Right, but I'm saying it's really special that someone takes the time. First of all, if you think about it, it's all in the middle of the simcha for her. I'm sure the mom had a lot going on, but for
yeah,
her to take the time to appreciate and to thank you and to express her words of gratitude to you, and it really shows a lot on her part because sometimes we don't get that. I'm sure you could have a million stories like that, right, Rabbi Raps, where you probably were an integral part of so many people, but like you said, you don't know. But when people take the time, people don't that like I could shift that even over to social media right now for a second, right? How important is sometimes people don't realize, and I say this numerous times, the feedback that people give. If something inspired you, if something resonated with you, it's such a kindness on the audience and the listener's part to let us know, because one, it's nice to know. Two, it reinforces that we know the message we're giving is going to the right places, the right ears, and it helps us and motivates us to do more. Like, I'm sure that just juiced you up like big time. Wow, okay, I'm in the right place, I'm doing the right thing, right?
yeah, absolutely. And what you're saying about social media is so important. Um, you don't know the impact, and sometimes people share with you the impact. It's a boost. It's like,
Right.
okay, I'm putting effort into this, and it's like, wow, it's helping people.
Right.
And I definitely encourage people to whoever you follow, to if they move you, they inspire you, they help you, let them know, because most people who create, Jordana, yourself, it's on the side. Myself, it's on the side. We create on the side. And sometimes it's like, I don't have time for this. Do I have time for this? Does it make a difference? But when you hear feedback, I had a beautiful story happen for me just last week where I went to someone's house to install a mezuzah, and I find out, oh, everyone follows me. Oh, okay, very nice. And then it turns out there's a young woman, a daughter of the couple, who's on a personal journey of teshuvah. She's come a long way. She's not, I wouldn't say from, but she's like doing tremendous steps that she never did. Kosher, Shabbos on some level. And for their family, it's actually a point of contention.
Mm.
Because the parents are like, what's wrong? We raised you with, we go to synagogue on Yom Kippur, we don't eat pork in the house. Like, what's wrong? Like, you're getting crazy on us, right? and it's like a point of contention in the house. And it turns out that, and so I was there putting up the mezuzah, and the girl says, "I just want to thank you for your videos." I said, "Why?" And it was a young woman actually, and I said, "Why?" She says, "Because my dad loves watching you. And every time you put an interesting video, he comes to me and we talk about it, because you might talk about this tradition or that mitzvah or that minhag." And it suddenly, there was like all this constantly. My dad was always like, I can't, you're into crazy stuff. And now he sees that he enjoys the content. He's following someone who's telling him the same things she's talking about. And now they actually schmooze every time they schmooze about this mitzvah, that mitzvah, a world that he never even knew existed. And anyway, she was just thanking me. She says, "You saved my relationship with my father and my personal journey." There was like, there's two obstacles. That one obstacle is it's so hard to start doing mitzvahs. Like if you were doing things one way your whole life, to start doing mitzvahs, it's and what you eat and Shabbos and so much, and it's so difficult. And we have Yetzer Hara. And then if your own family member is like giving you a hard time, it's difficult. And she says, "You literally saved, our family dynamic." It was a little story, but it actually gave me a tremendous boost. I was like, "That's beautiful. Thank you."
Yeah, it is a beautiful story that you've enhanced the family relationship, a connection between a father and a daughter, as well as Yiddishkeit. Even if you take the Yiddishkeit out of it, just the fact that were a conduit to that type of connection or reconnection is so beautiful. It's so funny. I wanted to get into when you started social media. I also started a short time ago, but it happens to be my oldest son
Yeah.
had done social media many years ago. Whatever. It's like 7 for me. That's 7, 8 years ago. He started Instagram. He was a dancer on Instagram, and he had gone to a school called Waterbury. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yes.
Yes. And I didn't even know what he was doing. I never had social media until like the fall of 2019. I think that's when I started social media. And he, here he is. He's in my kitchen and he's like, "Hey, Ima." I'm like, "Hey." He goes, "I'm live." I'm like, "Live? What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Okay." I'm like, "Okay, I'm cooking. I'm just like doing my thing." And then I remember when he had his graduation. It was like prior to his graduation. He was in 12th grade in Waterbury, and he was making his first CM ever, which was a very big, amazing accomplishment at the time for us. We were very proud of him. And I walked in, and one of his friends comes over to us, and he says, "I want to meet your mother. I want to meet your mother." I'm like, "Okay." So he comes and he goes, "Ima, this is so and so. He wants to meet you." And he says, "I just want to tell you, I watch your son's lives, and when you're on the live with him, it just inspired me to have a better relationship with my mother, because I love the relationship that you and your son have."
Wow.
So, and here I didn't know anything about social media, and I was like, "Okay," like whatever. I'm just cooking in the kitchen, and he's going live. I'm just being me, and I thought that's I think like that was a little window into what I saw could happen, perhaps with social media a little bit. And then I did for my own reasons, whatever. This is not about me. It's more about you. I'd love to know how you started tapping into it and why you started the social media. Like what happened with you? Where'd that come from? Besides the filmmaking part.
Yeah. So it started during COVID because I
Mm-hmm.
had no one to talk to. And I'm used to having people pretend they're listening to me. So um, during COVID, I made this little video of how I was locking the shul, and this is Hashem wants us to daven at home today. Like that was my little video. I put it on Facebook, and and it got like popular amongst my little Facebook group, whoever followed me. And my sister, who's younger than me, was like, "That was a great video. Nice story, but Facebook's for old people. You should put it on on Instagram." And I didn't know what Instagram was, and of course I was a little offended at being called old. And I was started making these daily videos, a little story, a little Dvar Torah, a little joke, and eventually I got Instagram, and then I learned what TikTok is, and I'm on all the media platforms right now. It very quickly I realized the power of social media. That's how we're connecting to people today in a beautiful way. I love the story you said. This kid saw a healthy relationship and says, I want that. I think that we could shine a lot more than just Devar Torahs through social media, just life, positivity, acceptance, all that. We could do so much.
Right.
And I really think that this is our job in this generation. We have to use the technology Hashem gave us in a positive way. And I think that, if we stayed in this shul or even stayed on Facebook, there's a very little impact we're going to have compared to what we could have.
Right. The reason why I was laughing is because when I also started making these videos, and my daughter said to me, Ima, hello, you're making videos, right? Just put it on social media. I'm like, what? She's like, Instagram, Facebook. I'm like, I don't have any of that. She's like, okay, I'll show you. So that, so that's really how it started a little bit for me. But yeah, I do think, I interviewed somebody one of my other seasons. I'm trying to remember which season it was for, but I can't remember right now, but that's not important. But she also has a very large following on TikTok and Instagram. And I remember when she said something, and I don't know how many, I'd be curious to ask you if you ever pay attention, how many people see your stories a day. And she just in passing said, 6,000 people at the time, she might have more by now, 6,000 people see my stories a day. And it hit me. I don't have 6,000 people seeing my stories. And the only thing I thought about at that point in time, and I remember I shared it with my other son, I was like, can you imagine, I said to him, if I had 6,000 people listening to my stories a day, that means I have given over to 6,000 people every day words of Torah. I'm like, right. So I'm curious. What do you have on do you mind me asking on your story?
I'm not sure how many are on my stories. I guess I could take a look and check it out, but it makes sense. It's in that range. I have like 300,000 followers between Instagram and TikTok. So
right.
When I think about that, same thing. It's like unbelievable. Like I used to talk to 20 people, right. And now I'm talking to, and some of the videos have millions of views, and I feel like, how can we not be using this platform to communicate with people?
Right.
It feels a responsibility.
Blows your mind, right? Blows your mind when you think about it. To think that so many people have heard a message, and you don't even. I just find it. It's like my heart is like jumping out right now when I think about it. Like the potential of how powerful it is. Right. It's amazing. It's an amazing feat, and it's a special gift to be able to do it right, and a responsibility.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job.
No, you're doing a great job.
Keep it up. But the key is we have to do it short.
Yes. Yeah.
It used to be if you had something to say, you had to fill 20 minutes,
Right.
Really analyze it from all sides. And today, if you can't do it in 1 minute, right. Don't say a thing. No one's listening to you.
It's so funny because I had to transition to a little bit into that. It's so funny you saying that. And then I remember one time somebody asked me to come speak, and I'm like, how long do you want me to speak for? They're like 30 to 45 minutes. I'm like, what?
That's very funny because I got accustomed over COVID to be making every story and everything into 30 seconds. And then afterwards I had to speak, and I felt like, how do you fill 20 minutes? I had to relearn how to give a sermon versus being a influencer online.
Okay, so you relate to what I'm talking about here.
Absolutely, yeah.
But first, it was like a skill just to get it down pat, to give that message, to be impactful in a minute and a half, depending. And now Instagram allows it a little bit longer, So maybe sometimes I'm looking for just 2 minutes.
Right, they're switching back to long form content again. A lot of these
right. I got to go as much as it says to no more like. If the click that, it used to be like if someone had to click that button to keep on watching, they're not necessarily going to keep on watching. So I got.
And also you have to be able to say it the right way, because the first 3 seconds are the determining factor if they're going to watch the rest of your video.
Yes.
So we should never start this week's Parsha. Says that is like, sorry.
Oh my gosh. And well, I don't know for you, for a lady, there's also another pressure. I'm just putting it out there. There's a pressure on what we wear.
Uh-huh.
You might not have that. I'm not sure, but
Right.
definitely I get comments. Oh, I liked your outfit. I'm like, what about I said something.
Yeah. No, that's a
So
good
it
point. There's
really
you can't you think twice before turning on the camera. Do I have the right
yes.
lighting, everything? I don't think about that. I think my wife would like me to make sure I'm tucked in all the time, but can't say it always happens. But yeah,
Oh no.
you know, it took me a little time to find my personal, and I'm saying this because I know people who are watching, a lot of people are thinking about creating.
Right.
A lot of people want to start creating. And I believe that everyone should be a creator, really. Like Hashem gave everyone a gift and a message and a vision and a pair of eyes to see the world in a way that no one else does. And we're all meant to be influencers. I really believe that. Whether we do it in a loud way, in a funny way, or in a quiet way, we have the tools at our fingertips to share our unique light with the world. And I encourage people to come out of their shell. And then so many people watching this right now they know they have a gift, and there's just something's holding them back. And I felt the pressure for many years of myself. Just turning on the camera, I was self-conscious. I don't know about you, Jordana, but especially I used to have a hard time my classes going live. I was always afraid maybe I made a mistake. Now I tell everyone that I always make a mistake. There's only
Right.
93% accuracy on what I say. You know, so when someone writes, Rabbi, there's another opinion. I'm like, yeah, I'm only 90. Look in my 93% accuracy. I don't make any correction. No, but I'm joking. To come up to overcome that is not easy.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking now you're telling me, you know, you have to worry about, you know, what are people going to say you're wearing? Not this is another challenge.
Right. It's
But
another challenge.
yeah, but I really do hope that people who are watching this or any kind of social media, you have a gift. You have a message that no one else in the world has. It's because it's your life. It's what you've gone through, and do it. Pick up the phone and start. Whether you put on makeup or don't put up makeup, create content.
Right. You know, it's so funny that you say I had so many things going through my head when you're talking, so many things to share, but I think I'll say it with this idea when you said everyone has their own personal message. I once, you know, how could we talk the rabbi and the Nats Rebbitzin? How can we not have put words of Torah into this right now? So I'll add it. I heard this beautiful thought when we talk about the Amida, the Chazarat Hashatz, when the Chazan is repeating, he repeats everything from the silent prayer and he repeats all of our words. But when it comes to the prayer of Modim, all of a sudden he says his portion. For everyone, if you know what I'm talking about, in the Siddur, it's divided two columns, and then all of a sudden we say our own when he's repeating. And I once heard this beautiful thought because when it comes to being thankful for what we have and we want to show gratitude, no one can do that gratitude. No one can give over that message for you because we all have our own personal message that we want to say. And so even in the Amidah, that typically everything is said by the Chazan to represent us, there's a point even in there that we have to still represent ourselves. And
Right.
that's really what you're saying, that everybody has a message. And hopefully, you know, unfortunately, it could be negative or positive, and hopefully people will find the positive voice to give over.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. And what you know, when people brought the Bikurim, also every Jew got up there and said their own, the same thing the other guy said. And even if they didn't read Hebrew, why didn't the Kayan do it? But like you said, like Hashem wants to hear from each one of us, because even though it's the same words, the ones I say, the ones you say, and the ones someone else says, it's all different because it comes from a different experience and a different feeling and a
right.
different meaning and a different thought. And yeah, so yeah, you're right. But it's a good thing you gave the Dvar Torah, because then people are going to listen. So
That's true. But it's you're right. Everyone has a different flavor, and I think that's the beauty of it. And that's what I love. I love listening, you know, to all the different ideas. And I think it's beautiful that there's an array out on social media of all the different flavors of Torah.
yeah,
So there's something for everybody. And I hope really people tap in, and I hope people will check out Rabbi Raps if they're not checking you out yet, because the flavor you give is fruity and bright and energetic and insightful at the same time as well. And I really hope people take advantage of that, because you're really doing a wonderful job. So before we sign off, Rabbi Raps, is there anything that perhaps I didn't ask about being a rabbi that you felt the need that you'd love to share?
I think if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer. But I think you did a great job in interrogating me. No, I'm just kidding. No, in asking wonderful questions. And for those that are watching, listening to this, and they don't follow Jordana, where are you? On Instagram, on TikTok, on
Facebook.
Facebook? Facebook? What are you doing on Facebook?
I got to tap into all ages.
By the way, Facebook is a very powerful. Today, I would not skip Facebook. Just don't only do Facebook. That's the point.
Right, correct. Yeah,
Right.
but I'm the strongest following is definitely for me is Instagram. I'm not catching on to TikTok. I don't get it yet. I'm
Yeah.
trying. I don't really understand it. But okay, I got to play with it more. But I'm trying my
It's
best.
really what Reels is on
Right.
Instagram. That's pretty. Reels is just trying to copy the TikTok. People at one point, TikTok was people dancing. Today, doctors, lawyers, accountants, everyone's teaching, and rabbis and rebbitzins and teachers, Jewish teachers should be teaching about Yiddishkeit. Obviously, we can't skip over the reality that social media has its dangers, especially for young people, for everyone, but especially for young people. Um, so we have to be careful, and I think it's worth saying that. It's, limit the time that it's used, and the material and the information that's out there. Not everything's the holiest. Not everything's like this podcast. So we have to protect our children and ourselves as well. But thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, this was a great honor. Thank you so much, Rabbi Raps.
Anyone who's listening, if you're ever in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and you get arrested, don't call me. No, I'm just kidding. If you're ever sitting in New Jersey, you need some kosher food, pick up the phone, call Chabad. You might actually get me on the phone.
So that's a good thing. How's the best way for someone if they wanted to reach you, since you're on so many platforms?
Yeah.
What's the best way someone could reach you if they had a question or they wanted to ask something?
I'm pretty available on Instagram direct message.
Okay.
Not
That's
on
good
all
to
the,
know.
I don't really check everything, but there I would check. And
Okay. And it's you personally. It's you personally responding.
yes, I don't have a team. It's just me.
Okay.
And
So
I might get back to you a week later. You'll forgive me. There's a lot of messages, but I try to get back to everyone.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rabbi Raps.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a good night.